I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at villageXchange@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed.
And a child shall lead them.
Child shall lead them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a pretty, I'd say it's a hip-hop themed night today. We got A$AP Rock, we got Brother Ali.
Yeah, a different sort of night.
It's a different, you gotta expand your horizons, dear listener. Expand your horizons from the big homie Negative Vibes. Negative Vibes. So this should be really, really interesting. So here we go. Song number 1 is from the big homie Brother Ali, and it is entitled All You Need. The lyrics are actually on the screen, so this should be interesting. Here it is, Brother Ali, All You Need. Let's go.
So I never told the world that the first time I toured, came home to find little man had been ignored. 2 years old, got a hold of water you had boiled and burned his little head and face while you snored. You were afraid of bringing him to the hospital, cause 2 weeks ago your mom called the cops on you. Child protection paid a visit, ruled that the crib was unfit to raise kids in. I'm working 10-hour days at the gig then. You were unemployed, all null and void. Now I ain't trying to be no Sigmund Freud, but ain't you supposed to have instinct when it comes to the boy? I called a cab and took him to county hospital. They shaved hair and burnt flesh off his skull, held him overnight to fight infection. I slept sitting up in a chair directly next to him. I just knew you would join us, but instead hopped your ass on a bus, went home and went to bed. That's the very moment I divorced you in my head. God might forgive you for that, I never did.
All you need right now.
Fahim, we can see the throne from here. I may never sit there, but brother, you're the heir. Pull up a chair, let Pop bend your ear. Here, baby, dry those tears. I know you wonder why your mother does the things that she do. Well, it's not cause she doesn't love you, it's because she grew up in something they call foster care. That's when strangers raise you, your mom's not there. Imagine how she felt when she was your age, going from place to place, never feeling safe, never having love, never having faith. She probably thought the world was a big scary place. Where was her mommy at? Well, that's kinda sad. She used drugs to forget the problems she had. They had a new one back then they called crack. When she tried, there was almost no coming back. She couldn't be the mommy she wanted to be. She was chasing the high, all in the street. I tell you no lie, real is all I be. I believe only the truth can set you free. There's a whole lot of pain in your bloodline, but there's a whole lot of strength in the sunshine. Lean back, let the new day greet you. 'Cause you're standing on the shoulders of a people who've been beat down and treated unequal. But the prayer that they made now has reached you. It's plain to see it's true. Beautiful prince, I wish they could see you.
All you need right
There's only 2 verses?
What?
That's 2 verses right there?
What do you mean? That's the whole song.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that was the whole thing. Oh my gosh.
Negative vibes. I can definitely relate to this story. Holy shit.
My bad. Ooh.
You start first.
I mean, the whole situation. I'm speaking from someone who's not been part of anything like this. So, but when it was talking about the mom and like what she did, I could see like she made all the wrong moves. Like she, you know, it seems like she probably was on some sort of drug, and then that's why, because he talked about the crack and stuff, and she, you know, she was asleep, and why was there boiling water when she was asleep? Like if the kid is 2-year-olds can absolutely pull stuff off the stove, and have no friggin' clue that you know. That's why I trained myself since I was a babysitter, always to turn the knobs, the handles inward, because the kids will pull it. But that, boy, that's such a scary thought. Anyway, so I was thinking she probably fell asleep on the couch because she was high or something, which she should have been doing when she was watching the kids. And then she landed in this situation. He was out of town. And then she panicked because her mom or his mom had called CPS on her a couple days before. And so because she didn't maybe want to lose the kid, or maybe she was afraid of what it was going to say about her as a person and all that. Like, to me, she sounds like a depressed person that was using drugs to help her, because at the end, like, that's the only way that I can understand her not being at the bedside of that 2-year-old. Like, is that maybe, because it says she went back and went to bed, which is usually the behavior of people when they're depressed. They sleep, especially if something gets a little too intense. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But it sounds like she didn't bring him, and then it started some infection. That child had to sit like that for days before his dad got back.
Shout out to Melohi for the super chat. We appreciate it, homie.
Oh, wow. Thanks.
Really, really appreciate it. Yeah, when she said, "Where?" Scroll up real quick.
I don't know where you're.
So it says, you were afraid to bring him to the hospital because 2 weeks ago your mom called the cops on you.
Yeah.
So she didn't bring him to the hospital for a good 2 weeks because
no,
the mom. It looks like the grandmother had called CPS.
Right.
2 years old, got a hold of water you had boiled and burned his little head and his face while you snored. And then it says you were afraid of bringing him to the hospital because 2 weeks ago your mom called the cops on you. Child protection paid a visit, ruled the crib was unfit to raise kids in. I'm working 10 hours. Okay, so he came home to find that little man had been ignored. 2 years old, got a hold of water you had boiled. So I don't know how much time went by between when the actual incident happened and when.
Well, it was hours anyway, because he was at a 10-hour shift. 10-hour gig he was at. Well,
he says I never told the world that the first time I toured I came home. So he went on tour because he was rapping and he was doing 10-hour shifts. So he went on the first time he went on tour. Oh my God. He had left his kid with this girl, and then that happened, and then I don't know how long it took.
Right.
For that.
I for some reason thought it was 2 days, but.
So. But ain't you supposed to be? Ain't you supposed to have instincts when it comes to the boy? I called a cab and took him to the county hospital. They shaved hair and burnt flesh off of his skull. So, I mean, that happened one time to my brother, my little brother. It was the first time I remember actually feeling sorry for the homie, because my little brother was, I mean, long story short, I lived in Jamaica, so it was me and my older brother. And then my mother went to America, and then basically she had a brand new family in America. And she went back for us and got us. And while we were at the airport, she's like, oh, here's the pictures of the baby. You know, yeah. And then it turned out to be my little brother. But I never had the opportunity to be a baby. So there was all like, with my mom. So there was all this like rivalry between my little brother and I. Mm-hmm. Well, there was no rivalry on his side because he was a baby. I mean, I was like 4 years old or whatever. And so we lived, first place we lived was in Saco, Maine. We got off the plane. We were in Saco. And I just remember one time, like, this giant, I never heard my brother scream like that before. And, like, he had pulled down some sort of, they were making him milk or something, and he was boiling water. And he screamed. I mean, he went crazy. And my stepdad was trying to stay calm, but you could tell he was, like, he was really, like, freaking out. And my mom is a registered nurse. So, I mean, he had I don't know if he still has it to this day, but he had a little thing on his chest. And we were all kind of like, when he got home, we were all kind of like, is he okay? You know, that time. And I was like genuinely concerned for the homie. But he got in the car immediately. Like, it happened. My mom put some sort of whatever, and they were gone.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they actually left me and my older brother. Junior was 9, 10? No. Junior was 7. So Junior was 7. I was 4. They left us, and they both went to the hospital. Which, you know, I understand. I mean, I didn't have any ill feelings. It too long
to get those kids in the car, and
yeah, it was just too much. It was just too much. They took him straight there, and I think if they wouldn't have done that, I mean, they said something, he had like 2nd, 3rd degree burns or something like that. He might as well have been in a fire, for God's sake. But they took care of him really good, and he was okay. But that's terrible. And it happened on his scalp, so it went on his head.
Oh, jeez.
Could have went into his eye. I mean, thank God, you know, that nothing worse happened. But I'll tell you what, there is nothing worse than being a dad and having I don't even know how to say this, because I mean, a lot of people, if you really watch the channel, you can kind of put stuff together. Yeah. You hear a lot about the deadbeat father, and rightly so. You know, I believe that men should bear the burden of family and society, and so I understand that. But you very rarely hear about the deadbeat mom, or the mom that's just I don't know how else to say, just a complete fuck up. And it happens, and it happens a lot, you know. And the problem for me is, like,
there's more sympathy for moms, and so then it doesn't get broadcasted like dads do.
I just think men generally are not going to go out and make a public spectacle
of that situation.
Like, even in this song, the second verse is him trying to explain to his kid, your mom's really not that bad of a person. Which is because I find myself playing that role in that type of situation, like. But you know, like the most recent issue, you know, and you know, I finally just like that whole meltdown that I had last week was more about the years and years and years of dealing with those kinds of situations with that individual. It wasn't really about that particular situation. But basically, she knowingly exposed herself to COVID. She knowingly did that. Like it was like the person had COVID. She knowingly exposed herself to COVID. Didn't mask, didn't social distance. Obviously, she wasn't vaccinated. She then went and exposed the kids to it because the kids were over. Because, like, we have
she went straight from that COVID person right to the apartment with the kids.
We have 100% leverage in the situation, and you know, we made it so that the kids could see her and she could see the kids because, you know, we're not trying to, you know, whatever. But long story short, we have 100% leverage in that situation. And she went back and exposed the kids to COVID. And didn't tell us, didn't tell the kids until she was massively symptomatic. And if you know this person never goes to the doctor for anything.
I was surprised when I said, you need to go get checked out. And as soon as I said that, she said, yeah, I'm already on the way. Yeah. And I said, holy
that's when
shit,
when I knew that she had it.
Mm-hmm. Well, no fight, no nothing. You're just going.
And so that was just it was, there we go again. And it's been like that ever since they've all been born. Since all three of them were born, it's been like that. It's just been one thing after another, after another, after another. And a lot of it has been me covering up for her and all the rest of it, and running interference with the kids. I mean, I could just go on for days and years. And that's why when people were like, hey, you shouldn't be so mean or whatever, I was like, fucking block this person. Because I had it. Mm-hmm. I'd had it. And unless you're in that situation, the rage that you feel. See, the thing is, if you're a woman, and I've seen this a million times, I saw it with my mom and my stepdad. If you're a woman and the dude does something like that, they go off and they'll hit you and they'll do all types of crazy shit. And societally speaking, that's acceptable. And for me personally, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But when you're a dude, you can't do that. And I agree, you shouldn't do that. And I'm glad that you can't do that. But it's unless you've been in it, it's and then you get people that have never been through that situation that have their judgments and say, well, you should be nicer to this person.
Oh yeah, I know.
And all the rest of it. It's they have no idea.
I did. You used to cover so good.
Yeah.
That I thought you were the one, because you can see with our interactions or something, sometimes you'll be and you get real serious, and it can look whoa, you know what I mean? And so I thought you were more aggressive or something, but you weren't. Turns out everything was on her end, and you weren't saying anything. Oh God.
And I feel.
And then slowly I started saying, well, that's odd. That's odd. That's odd.
Yeah, she, and my thing is, like I said, as a man, I feel that's a burden that you bear, and that's fine, but the rage that you feel when it's you're supposed to, and this person obviously has major issues, and it's yeah, I mean, it's just strange. But then the second verse is really crazy, because I did that, I do that to this moment. You're always running interference with the kid, and you're always trying to help them understand, because they're looking at the way mothers treat their kids. Mm-hmm. When I was growing up, all the friends that I grew up with, none of them had dads. So we were all kind of together. But it's very rare that you have a mom that's like that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, there's nobody to relate to in that situation with those kids. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult, because the kid starts looking at themselves and what's wrong with me and that type of thing. And so you're trying to find a way to... And at this point, he was still with her. He said, I divorced you in my head, but I was still with you. This was unforgivable. Yep. And there were so many...
Head?
He said, that's when I divorced you in my mind or my head or whatever.
Yep, you're right.
And there were so many times I'm okay, I'm done with this person. But then it's yeah, you got kids with this person. Mm-hmm. Plus, this guy's probably Islamic or Islamic background in Islam. You can divorce... There isn't really a lot of bars to entry for divorce if you want to divorce in Islamic theology, especially if you're a dude. Whereas in Christianity, if you're trying to follow Jesus, I mean, it's very, very difficult to have a divorce. So, and to reconcile it with trying to follow Christ. And so, it was infuriating, because my thing was, okay, me and you are done. Me and you have been done for a very, very long time. But I was willing to completely do the stay together for the kids thing, the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. But she, man, when it's hurting your kids and it's affecting your kids, but the person can only think about themselves, it's the most infuriating. And then it's when it's a woman, you're expecting her to have some maternal instinct, like he said, mm-hmm. I'm not Sigmund Freud, but aren't you supposed to have some sort of instinct when it comes to the kid? And then it got to the point where I was like, what the fuck, what did you expect to happen? These are it was dumb shit, oh, they're not letting me sleep. It's yeah, like babies will, that's what, and, we're talking about, really violent kind of outbursts because, a baby's like keeping you up at night. Like, are you fucking mind? Like, it was just an insane. But then as your kids get older, you start to see that they're so hurt, and you're trying to explain to them, no, it's not that you're unlovable, and it's not that you're, your mother came from a very bad upbringing and all the rest of it. Of course, it sounds like excuse making for the person. It sounds like excuse making for the parent. But in reality, it's like when you got with this person, you knew that they were whatever. And you were able to do the arithmetic and see past that and say, yeah, but you're still a good person here and here. But when it comes to your kids, you really believe like, yo, they would change for the kids or what? No, they won't. No, they won't. If they're a psychopath, and like literally a psychopath, this person is a psychopath. Like, that's not, having kids is not going to change their psychopathy. Like, kids are not, like, go to any psychologist or any professional. A child does not cure pathology. And so, he's only talking to his son here because he's apparently wiser than me. Only had one kid with this person, but
honey. Oh well, I don't. Never mind.
And there are multiple people. Like, I've had M Death fan understands. There's another guy, I don't want to speak for him in here, but he and I talk a lot because he and I are like, it's almost a mirrored situation. And, we kind of help each other through it. But unless you it's a very lonely feeling as a dude. And I'm sure as a woman, I've seen it because my mom, there's some very bad situations. You guys know we ended up in a homeless shelter, abused women's shelters, things of that nature. But there are structures set up for women in those situations, and society looks at women in those situations, and there's like societal punishments for men who are like that. There are not many societal punishments for women who are like that. So if you're a man, a lot of times you're just suffering in silence. And I don't think the way that I handled it was the right way, but at the same time, it's like,
where were you going to go to get some guidance on that?
Yeah, there's not a lot of help out there for dudes with a psychopathic woman who's out there like,
it's true, like
fucking up your kids. And there's multiple ways. Like, there's a physical stuff like that type of negligence, but there's also the like this person, for example, after the whole COVID situation, the kids were so overjoyed because I haven't seen my dad in like 20 plus years. They've never met him, broken family, whatever. And, God's really starting to repair that relationship. So their cousins were going to be there. Dad's going to be there. Like, it was this big giant thing. They were super excited. And her fucking selfish decision that she made, that we exposed our kids to her because we're trying to be, over the top gracious to her.
Honestly, I don't think I'm doing it much for her.
Right.
I think that ended a long time ago.
No,
At this point, I'm only doing it for the kids. That. But, even I got to the point where I told her this last time. I said, I'm not covering for you any friggin' more. Because now I feel like I'm lying to the kids by saying, well,
hey,
like,
Ben, rock and
she's
roll,
trying,
buddy.
Or, I still found myself saying she has made some improvements because she has.
Yeah,
But anything that I say moving forward is only for the kids. Like, what's going to be most helpful for them. They're frustrated about it. They're hurt about it. And, not being able to see their family. They were talking about it last night. And, I was thinking, is this words for the wind? Is this, I was just trying to let them have that space because they were talking amongst themselves, but I was in the room. And they're very hurt, very frustrated.
And the thing is that she, and when I say psychopathy or sociopathy, like, she came back like 2 days later and said, well, I could have got it anywhere. It could have been at a gas station. She had this very nonchalant...
She said this to the kids.
Which is, so here they are broken up. They were about to see their granddad for the first time. They're about to see their cousins and all that for the first time. And they were really excited. And they get this crushing news that they can't go. And then 2 days, they're all broken about this. And then, one of them had to be in quarantine. They're like, put her in the basement in isolation, which we couldn't do that. We just didn't have the emotional strength to do it. Because our family... Our family here, we are so close, like, it's insane.
I know.
Because we do homeschool together, we do the business together, we do, like, it's it's a legitimate clan. Like it's insane. So we just couldn't do it, and so it just cycled through the whole house, because we have little, we put a little, ICU thing up, but I mean, it didn't work because, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, by the time we found out, everybody had already been.
That's also true.
So
yeah, that's true.
That's... we found out, we immediately went for testing.
Yeah. And
once we immediately went for testing, somebody was already testing positive. So
correct.
By then we'd all been,
Correct. So
the kids are like, they're like little kittens, like they'll, like cuddle up with each other watching shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're
even
like
the boys.
they're just so close.
Boys are
all
very,
the time.
very affectionate. You guys know how, and they're very, very, which is very affectionate family, and so, so they're all wrecked. And then she comes in like 2 days later and is like, just get this nonchalant, I could have been this, it could have, whatever.
And then she was basically saying she was, she was at peace, everything was good.
That's always about her being at peace. That's the big thing. It's always, and she's in a church group, and they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do because they don't know us.
Yeah.
On purpose, right? Mm-hmm. And I get that. They're it's not their job to be completely objective. Their job is to take care of the people in front of them. Mm-hmm. So they want her to have peace and all that. So she comes, but that's not for her to come back and project that to us. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. Like, not you, but her. The last conversation, like, it's not for you to come with all this fucking mumbo jumbo about how you're at peace with, and you're like. You just ruin these kids' like the next 6 months. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? But it's like you could tell when you look at her, she has no
I still don't understand why she called us pilgrims. I've literally been thinking about that every year and again. I don't
she
understand.
Doesn't get it. She doesn't. Like, the thing is, like, she's seen me. Like, when I'm done with people, like, I'm done with people. The only reason.
Yeah, but she knows you can never do that.
That's untrue. Because the minute the minute that I believe that her being around them is worse for them than not being around them, like, she's fucking done.
Honey.
No. See, that's the difference.
Yeah, but you made promises.
That's the difference between the length of time that both of us know each other. Because and you can even see it in the text conversation, like, once I said a certain thing, like, her entire tone changed. Because she understands certain things about me. You misinterpret things, but that's because you haven't been around long enough. Like,
but your promises that you've made to, not her, but other people, that's not...
What promise? To the kids?
No.
Yeah. That's not the same thing as having my kids around her, though.
Oh, yeah.
Those are completely different things.
I thought you were saying when you're done, you're going to be done. You mean... When you're done with the... Okay, I see.
Yeah, the minute that I, but right now, the way that it is that, especially the boys, my daughter is pretty much done with her.
Like, she was done before that happened, but she said, I'm going to give it another go.
Yeah.
And then...
Yeah, that's... Like, it's so hard because it's so hard because you don't trust yourself. Like, oh, this is just because I don't like her. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been a parent, I've been a child of divorce too, and a lot of it, like, I'm not gonna lie, my mother kept my father away from us, and she kept saying it was for our own good, but it wasn't. It was just because she had a problem with it.
Yeah, and
I needed my dad growing up, and she kept him away from us. And she was all, and I believed for the longest time it was for my own good. And then now that I've gotten to know my dad, I'm like, no, this wasn't for my own good.
Right.
This was just because you and him had a problem. And the other thing was, you didn't want him telling me his side of the story. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's a lot of that where I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me pause.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's not this situation, because there are people outside of this circle that honestly really should be in her corner more, and they have a different opinion about that.
Who? The kids, you mean?
No. There's a person that, the three of us two and her talk to, the three of us talk to them. And
that
you mean
person the counselor?
Should be, okay, well, I didn't know if we were going to say it. But that person was saying...
Yeah, the counselor was basically like, the counselor was like, get away. The counselor was like, yeah. Because I kept saying,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
I kept saying to the counselor, like, hey, like, it's to the point where she may never see them again, or she may never see them for a very long time. And the counselor's like, well, I mean... He didn't say, like, whoa, no, that's not what's in the best interest of the kids. He's like, well, you got to protect the kids.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was her counselor. Yeah, he said that right in front of her.
And that's what I'm saying. That's her counselor, and he's saying that. And so that means, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's somebody outside. That's not you that's frustrated, and it's not me. That's somebody else that has nothing to do with our feelings on it. That's what he's seeing when he's talking with her and observing the situation. So,
yeah. So shout out to him for this, because this is a very rare. I'm surprised. Eminem never really had a song like this. I don't think. I'm not sure, but that's probably because he was a little bit dysfunctional himself. This dude, Brother Ali, seems to be extremely functional, high functioning. Got a rap career, doing 10-hour shifts.
okay.
That type of thing. And when you're a functional person and you're with a dysfunctional woman, like it's hard. Very hard.
I do have to say this, though. In the Bible, it talks about that the older women are supposed to teach the younger women and to raise them to love their families and to run their households and stuff like that. From my experience and in the circles I've been in, that doesn't happen. And
that happened.
So, like,
that
when
happened
he
with
said,
her.
"Oh, it did."
That happened
She
with
had
her a lot.
Oh, okay. Well, I was not necessarily speaking about her. I was just talking about, because where he said this line, but ain't you supposed to have? Now, I ain't trying to be Sigmund Freud, but ain't you supposed to have some instincts when it comes to the boy? Like, that gets thrown all over the place, that the mom instincts, blah, 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 maternal instincts. But I think that is true. Like, there are maternal instincts that come in. But I think that there are some people, especially she grew up in foster care, all that. There's a lot of probably dysfunction when she was growing that, there was a fail. And also, like,
especially kids in a foster system where those instincts, she displayed them. Because I agree with that. I think that, you in a foster system, those kids are pretty much left to the wolves, and if you're not cute and young and babyish, you're screwed.
Well, it's like that guy said, they didn't want a kid. They wanted an accessory that they could add onto their lives and add into their Christmas cards.
And the other thing is that in the foster system, it's a brutal thing for those kids, because a lot of kids, the adults will take them in and they'll push them back out, and take them in and push them back out because the kid is too hard.
Oh my gosh! See, that's a thing. Like,
I don't even know how that's legal, but I mean, I guess it's one of those things where
what are you gonna do if the person feels like they're getting to their? See, that's the thing. Like, when kids have been through a lot, like they're gonna push the envelope.
Yeah.
Because they're fighting back against, and probably, they're probably trying to see if you're actually going to stick with them or not. Because, we know that as a parent, whatever our kids do, even if our kids got so bad that we had to say, okay, you have to move out because we're not going to let you influence the rest of the batch like this. You refuse. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
If there was something like that, we're not going to disown our kids. And
no.
we're going to still see that. You know what I'm saying? So, but with a foster care child, they don't know where they're at. They don't know how secure they are, and then they can get.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they kids like sometimes I see like in that like there's like stepmom groups and stuff where they'll talk about different stuff that goes on. Well, even like the biological mom, sometimes like biological moms will be like, somebody will come on, they'll be like, this would be like one, my stepson, he's 15 friggin' years old and he refuses to clean his room and it's so disgusting, and they'll like post pictures, but I think it's terrible if they do that. They'll post pictures of the kid's room and he's got like dishes and socks and like, it's just like it's a really nasty room. But that's not like because the kid's been through some kind of trauma or because he's not like yours biologically. Like, and then like sometimes like a biological mom will be like, no, my kid is 15 and I absolutely have issues with this. Like this is not something that's 100%. Localized there. So I think that there are certain misconceptions that people have about kids. Like kids are not perfect and they're going to do all kinds of stuff, and sometimes it's going to be very annoying. Sometimes it's going to make you angry. Sometimes, that's just normal for parenting. Like you're raising kids that have foolishness in their heart and you're trying to help grow them in wisdom and stuff. I was thinking today, so when you were doing that football game with Johan.
Yeah.
And I was laughing because there's such a difference between white parenting and black parenting. And I said, because like he did the wrong move and you were like, come on, Johan, that's a wrong move. Why would you have done that? You should have done this. And like, more white parenting, or the white parenting that I've been around, it's more like, good job, Timmy. Like you tried and
like when I was coming up on sports, like it wasn't like that. Like I said, the kid, in football, the coach's son was a QB. Mm-hmm. And if he missed a route, he'd say, "What are you doing? That's a hitch." Like he got it just like the rest of us did. So I don't know. Like you came up in I keep trying to tell you, you came up in a very, very, very specific like I'm sure Death fan, like if his kid was playing sports, he'd say the same thing, especially if it's a boy. He'd be like, "What the fuck, man? What are you doing?" He probably wouldn't say that, but like, yeah, I don't think that's a race thing. I just think that's a cultural thing where you're from. Like,
okay, I mean, it could be. In my mind, it separates as race because you're the black experience that I have, and every other experience I have is white, but it's also from that same environment.
I'm also the outside of your crazy ass subculture. You'll see when we move. Like, you came up in a crazy ass neurotic subculture.
But anyway, I was thinking, like, if you don't criticize your kids for like everything that they do wrong, and
Or
you kind of
anything.
just like, what?
It's not everything. It's anything they do wrong.
Okay, forget about the word criticize. Like, like there's stuff that they might do that it's like, okay, that wasn't the best. Well, for instance, maybe they're wiping the counters down and they just sweep all that crap onto the floor. And then they sweep the floor and then they wash the floor. Like, everything in the end gets cleaned, but it was not the best plan. Like, sweeping it to the trash can would have been a better plan. And so maybe, like, if you communicate those things, a little bit more gently, and you save the, like, all of that passion for, like, in the game, because you're putting out the passion because you want him to win.
Yeah.
And so you're like, yeah, do this, do that. Where if it's just like day to day, like, hey, maybe the best plan next time would you sweep that into the trash instead of throwing it all over the floor and then sweeping it up and walking through it and all that. You know what I mean? Like, I was just thinking how I think that everybody has a limited amount of criticism or somebody pointing to them and saying, hey, you're doing this wrong and you need to correct this. And people have a limited amount of space for how much of that they can take in a day or a week, in a year. And so if you go after somebody too much, it's just too much. And I think that when I was watching you with the kids, I was like, oh, okay, because you're very balanced at that. Like, you might throw some suggestions but then if there's something very important, then you're going to say, oh, this is, but
it was a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
It's a Super Bowl. He wanted to win.
Madden.
So he wanted to feel. It's a 10 for me because I don't think I've ever heard a song like this before. Like, that really.
Oh gosh.
And when you go through something like this, like, you really, really, truly feel like you're alone. And there probably is a religious component that makes it so that you stay there longer than you should.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure.
Because I guarantee you, if I sat down and like itemized the list of my secularist friends, they'd have been like, nigga, we'd have been gone a long time ago, bro.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm going to talk to him definitely, and after this, he's like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You kind of stay in longer, I think, maybe. But it's a 10 for me because I never even thought. I thought to myself, like, Eminem wrote Kim where he was angry and he wanted, but it's not the same because I never really had that kind of emotion for her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even when like I found stuff and like, as far as me and her goes, like, I was like, ah. But the kids, man, like, the kids is the thing where I'm like, I can't. That's the shit I cannot get past. Like, when you start fucking with your kids, man, like, because my whole logic was like, I made that decision.
Right.
So whatever happens to me, happens to me. Like, you made that decision, bro.
Right.
But my kids didn't make that decision.
Yeah.
So
it's sad too because when events like this pop off, then they start talking about everything that's happened, and so it's like, oh no, then. Sometimes they forget about some of the things, but because there's 3 of them, some will remember and some forgot, and then the ones that forgot get reminded. It's painful. It is absolutely painful to watch.
Yeah, Mr. Negative Vibes is our DJ for the night. Thank you for reminding me. I got to put that up there on the ticker. But yeah, it's a 10. It's a 10 for me because I never thought that there's not a lot of. I don't complain a lot, but there are definitely advantages and privileges of being a male in this context. But this is one of the the fallouts is you a lot of times you suffer in silence, especially when situations like this. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I will say, if you're a dude in a situation like this, you got to get help, bro. And it's not about
where do they go for help?
Well, I mean, look, the first thing is if you've got an abusive woman there or a woman that's not fulfilling her obligations as a mother and your kids are ending up in the hospital, you better make sure you get that shit on record because that shit will get flipped on you quickly, bro. Honestly. And the second thing is have a good friend, it's not too late, but it's better than nothing. But I've got a couple people on the channel like that if I was in that situation years ago, like
could have helped.
I'd have been able to have that conversation and then M Death Fan would have been like, bro, you need to make some calls, man. Like enough
Yeah,
is enough.
but I feel like I'm still. Oh, I see what you're saying.
See what I'm
For the
saying?
calls,
And
yeah.
like that's another
Yeah,
dude.
but not
like
everybody
that's a
has
guy that I
that.
can. That's a dude. That's what I'm saying. Is
You only
gotta
have
get
that
one.
now because you're part of a channel that has 170,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
so
but
you
I
can
make
find
the
those
decision.
people.
I make the decision as to who, and men know how to do this. You know, like men know how to do this. Like we decide who we're gonna let know.
Yeah, I'm
certain
saying
things
this
and
is
who we're
probably pretty rare, right?
not. I don't know how rare it is, because
Oh well.
because
okay.
we don't talk. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't talk. And a
Oh,
dude
God.
that's gonna stay in a relationship.
You've known a couple people like that.
Yeah, and dudes that are gonna stay in a relationship like this are definitely gonna be. You got to have a certain level of degree
Oh,
of
boy.
toughness to where to even maintain a relationship like that in the first freaking place. So you're most likely not gonna talk.
The other thing that I have to say is I do have judgments toward the mother-in-law for calling the cops and child protective services instead of doing something. Like the dad,
I got no judgments for that lady.
The dad clearly didn't want his kid in that unsafe situation. So if I was going to either call child protective services on my daughter or call the husband and say, yo, the kids are not safe there. Because clearly the dad cared.
Yeah,
I would call the dad and say, hey, this is not a good situation. She shouldn't be alone with the kids. I wouldn't call child protective services first.
Yeah, well, you don't know if... See, that's the thing. You
Right,
don't know
well,
that she called child protective services first. You don't know that.
Yeah, because he didn't say it, so that doesn't mean it didn't happen.
And that woman, it says 2 weeks ago, your mom. Like, that takes a mother a lot to do that to her own child. That takes a lot. So
it doesn't... not necessarily. I know my friend, her mother called...
Well, you know your friend's story. You know your friend's story and your friend's angle. You don't know the other woman's angle. So, you don't know that. So, I have no judgment to the woman. And if you're a mom and you're grandmother and your kids off doing shit like that, fucking call them. It's better that than a dead kid. So,
Yeah, but I'm saying she should call the husband.
He's out on tour. And the other thing is sometimes the dude is so, because I'll tell you, in my situation, I was focused on her. Everything was about her, making sure she was good and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, and maybe he was the same way, and so she thought
You
that was
always end up being like that because she's crazy. So it's like, oh, she's crazy. I got to take care of her because you were with that girl. You already fell in love with her. You committed her before you had. Of course, as a husband, you're going to say, yeah, why didn't you call me? But notice in the song, like, he doesn't have any resentments towards her, towards the mother. So, nah. I have no judgments for that lady.
Wow.
But anyway, it's a 10 for me because it's something that almost never gets talked about. So, go ahead.
Honestly, like, I think I'm gonna silent count this one because it's too emotional feeling, and like the topic itself, and the closest. You definitely had it worse than I did. I'm not saying that, but I didn't consciously choose to have her a part of my life and in the lives of my children. Like, that was already a thing. She was already their mother when I came into the picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, like,
yeah, I think that's fair.
And the way
that's fair.
The way that it feels from my end, and you have those like mama bear feelings, but then you're trying to let them still have another mom along with it. Just it's messy and it's very hard, and seeing that that it, and also I think thinking that this is wider, like a bigger issue, is alarming to me. Because I think that I was thinking, well, it's probably just like a random off. But then after this discussion and stuff, and then thinking, oh my gosh, actually, we do know a couple of people that have been in this situation. And if you know a couple of people, like, if I used to tell myself this because I was so terrified to go onto the roller coaster. I'd be like, well, how many people do I actually know that got stuck on a roller coaster? I know people that got in car accidents, so that seems more legitimate to be worried about car accidents. I don't know anybody that got stuck on an elevator. No, I do know somebody that got stuck on an elevator. So I know one person that got stuck on an elevator, but beyond that, like, I never knew anybody that got stuck on a roller coaster. So that was kind of like how I gauged my odds. So this one's not looking good because there's already a handful of people that are in that situation. So too emotional for me. And I feel for that kid. I feel for the dad. The mom, I don't even know how you would get past something like that. Like, if you did that stuff to your kid and you didn't call and you were high or you were whatever, like, oh God. So silent count for me.
Yeah, it's a horrible situation for everybody around. So anyway, thank you, Negative Vibes, for Negative Vibes is actually one of the most,
digging that up.
He's one of the most positive people on the channel. Like I almost never like he's never like I give everybody like a. Anyway, we'll talk about it in the after show. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Go.